What's up, you guys? My name is Lucas Rio from Team Cardfighters United, and I'm coming with you today with an awesome deck profile. Now, we all know Team Cardfighters United motto, meta is disgusting, and we all know that Shadow Paladin is considered meta. Well, today we're changing that. I have with me today my Shadow Paladin build, Claret Sword version. So, if you want to build Claret Sword, this is the video for you. If not, and you hate meta, move along. Otherwise, here we go. Now, of course, a bunch of new stuff came out in set 6 for Claret Sword, and it's amazing. Of course, I run pretty much all of it. Alright, as your starter, you're going to want to run Bassinet Knight Oscar. His skill is a G. Of course, the Forerunner ability when another Shadow Paladin unit is placed on top of him, you pull him back to a rearguard circle. But he also has a G-Break ability that, when you send him to the soul, if you have a Cardfight Vanguard, which is of course the main grade 3 in this deck, you send it to the soul, search for any grade 1 you want, meaning it could be a perfect guard or a really, really good grade 1 that you desperately need. You take it out of the deck, you shuffle your deck, and you put that card on top of your deck, and then you countercharge 1. So that way, since Claret Sword is, of course, the best combo with Aura Doomed, that is the best combo you want to do here. You want to use this skill right before you use Aura Doomed in order to guarantee to retire at least 1 unit. That's a pretty good card. Next, you're going to want to run at least 1 copy of Promising Knight David. Now, David is a pretty old card from set 3, who is, of course, your also starter ability with Forerunner, but it has the G-Break ability to count as 2 units when you retire him. I only run 1 copy, but it's okay if you want to run multiple, but you have to sub out either a grade 1 or a grade 2, and it's kind of hard to do with this deck because this deck is already so full of stuff. But you're going to want to run at least 1 just for the extra retire, because, of course, that's what Shadow Paladins do. Now, for triggers. I know a lot of people out there have been looking at the new stand trigger that counts as 2 units when you retire him as well, and then goes back into the deck. Not me. Not in this deck, at least. You're going to want to run, especially for Claret Sword, since for this deck it's kind of different and awkward, you're going to want to run 12 critical triggers. Of course, you're going to run, well, personally, you can run any criticals, honestly, but I run 4 copies of Revenger Undead Angel. The 2 of them are, of course, the triple rare version from the Legend deck. And that's also a really easy way to get started on Shadow Paladin through the Legend deck. 4 copies of Leaping Knight Ligan Luma. 1 of those copies is, of course, the triple rare from the Legend deck. He also comes in there, which I think is really awesome that the Legend deck came with 8 critical triggers instead of your normal 4. So this is of course, is a good way to get your 8 crits for not a bad price. And then the main grade, then you're going to run the main critical trigger in this entire deck that came out in set 4 is Taboo Mage Kafar. He is one of the first few cards that had an ability that when he's on the rearguard circle, you send him to the soul, and your Vanguard gains plus 5,000 power, and then you get to draw a card. The drawing in Shadow Paladin is what is going to save your life. Of course, you get to retire a bunch of stuff, but you need that hand size in order to stay alive. So if you want, you can run the new stand trigger and just swap out 4 criticals, or you can run draw triggers and of course swap out 4 criticals. But you're going to want to run at least 8. And of course, you're going to want to run your 4 heal triggers. Now, I know a lot of people out there are crazy about running 2 or 3 heal triggers, but Shadow Paladin, you're going to want to run 4 heal triggers. No exceptions. I personally run Illegal Alchemist because, yes, Flat Bow is adorable and cute, and he's supposedly the newest, one of the newer heal triggers, but for me, he's not very reliable. Because he, of course, says Flat Bow being a little puppy, he's playful, and he doesn't want to show up when he wants to be when he's needed. So I personally run Illegal Alchemist, but it doesn't really matter what heal trigger you run. It's a heal trigger. You do you. All right. Now for grade 1s. This personally isn't what I want to run as my perfect guard, but due to me being pretty, me wanting the at least cheapest kind of deck I can get, I went ahead and went with the 4 perfect guards from the Legend deck. Little Skull Witch Nemen. The only thing with this is, it's a good perfect guard and everything. It's not a counter charge ability. You can swap this out for Karma Collector. I personally would prefer Karma Collector, but of course Karma Collector is $15 a piece. Good luck with that. If you want to go cheaper, you can go Sunny at about $1 or $2 a piece. But if you want to stay on Shadow Paladin, you're going to want to go with Little Skull Witch Nemen. Nemen is, of course, your normal perfect guard. It's got the perfect guard ability. But it's got a drop zone ability that is kind of weird, and you got to watch how you play it. Because if you have 1 copy of her in your drop zone, no matter what, you have to draw a card from your deck and then drop a card from your hand. There is no exception. You have to do that. It's a required skill. Anytime you have a copy of Nemen in your drop zone and you play another one, you have to draw a drop. That's all. That's it. That's all you have to do. It's kind of wasteful, but overall, I think that it's kind of okay, especially if you have a card in your hand that you really, really don't need or want. Anyway, moving on. And, okay, next, I run 4 copies of Dark Quartz Dragon, which is a good combo with Dark Pride Dragon. His skill is a G-Break ability. He gives 3k not only to himself when he's called to the rearguard, even from hand or deck or whatever you do. He gives 3k to himself, but also the Vanguard. So this is also a good power booster when you're using Claret Sword. Alright, next I run... Now some people run 4 copies of this and then 3 copies of Dark Quartz. I run 4 copies of Dark Quartz and then 3 copies of Abyss Summoner. Because Abyss Summoner's skill is probably one of the best grade 1 abilities for Shadow Paladin I have ever seen. His skill is, of course, a G-Break ability. You can only use it once per turn, though. Anytime, once per turn, a card is set from your field to the drop zone due to the effect of one of your skills, you get to countercharge 1, soul charge 1, and then this unit gains plus 3k. Personally, I originally thought you could stack the abilities that would make this card that much more stupid, but I realized that it was a once per turn only. So this honestly works because you don't have to send all your cards to the soul, and you're sitting here with like all countercharge damage, and like what else am I going to do except put more cards in my soul and waste more cards in my deck? Because this deck is like, you get through your deck pretty fast, especially if you do the combos that I'm going to show you in a few. Alright, your next grade 1 and your last one. Most people run 4 copies of your Stride Fighter. I personally run 3 because you already have 8 total grade 3s. If you ride Claret Sword, you have 7 more Stride Fighter. I don't think you need any more than 3 Stride Fighters, but you're gonna want to run them anyway because they're good to have, and you can add them to your hand using skills. So, Of course, it's your drop. You drop this card from your hand, and she counts as grade +2 in the drop zone, so you can use her to stride. But she's also got the ability when you call this card, take a grade 3 from your hand, reveal it, and you search for Claret Sword, add it to your hand, and you have to discard a card. Of course, it's pretty good. Personally, I don't use it that often because Claret Sword loves me. Anyway, moving on. Grade 2 wise, alright, here is the card that you're going to want to combo with Dark Quartz Dragon. It's Dark Pride Dragon. Dark Pride Dragon is one of your main retiring abilities. Whenever you have him on the field, retire him using a skill. No matter what you do, retire him. No, even if it's stupid, retire him, because he will call Dark Quartz Dragon. His skill, when he is put from the field to the drop zone at the cost of one of your unit's abilities, you search your deck for a copy of Dark Quartz Dragon, call it to the rearguard circle, and if you do, countercharge. That is it. This is why this grade 2 is pretty good, and I run 4 copies of it because it's that good. Run this card. Anyway, then you're going to want to run another card from the newest set, set 6, which is an awesome set overall. But it is Greymew. Greymew is just beautiful because he's a Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. You call one grade 1 from your deck, and it gains 2,000 power. Gains 2,000 power from one call. When he's placed, of course. So it gets you that. It gives you any card in your field, and this card is good combo if you do not have Abyss Summoner on the field. So you can call him out and then retire something and then get Abyss Summoner skill off really easily. I think it's pretty cool. And then finally, okay, this is where the deck starts to get a little strange because originally I was running Fierce Bow in my deck, and Fierce Bow is your when you have one or less rear guards in the back row, of course a G-Break ability. He gains 2,000 power and an on-hit countercharge soul charge ability. And it didn't really work because I was lacking the draw power that I wish I had. So I went ahead and swapped out for Scornful Knight Giva. I only run 3 copies of this. Because of the cost for this, it would be a little bit better if it wasn't such a high cost. But I'm still getting 2 cards in my hand. Her skill is a Counterblast 1, drop a card from hand, draw 2 cards from the top of your deck. This will get you the guard power you need. 9 times out of 10 it works. It's basically a much better Nemain. Well, original Nemain. Original Nemain is a 3k Counterblast 2, draw 2 cards. This is much better. It's a G-Break ability though, so watch out. I personally like it. It's okay if you want the draw power. This is what you want to run, though, if you want draw power without having to sacrifice anything too strenuous. Anyway, so now it's time for the grade 3s. I run 3 copies of Death Spray Dragon. Death Spray Dragon is a new card from set 6. His ability is a Counterblast 1, retire 1 unit. You choose one of your opponent's units, and they have to retire it. When he attacks, of course. The attack does not have to hit. And it's pretty good when you're trying to pull off a huge skill. And if you're just trying to get rid of cards in your field so you can get set up for another combo, you're going to want to use him. He's also pretty good stride fodder. Yeah. That's pretty much all I have to say from him. He's also a pretty good 11k, so even if you get him without getting Claret Sword, you can still ride him and still retain your extra 1,000 power. So, overall, he's okay. Alright, now the coup de grace of Shadow Paladin Claret Sword build. Of course, the infamous Claret Sword Supremacy Dragon, Claret Sword Dragon. He is going to be your main grade 3. You are going to run 4 of him. No matter what in this deck, you are going to run 4. 4. His ability. You retire 2. If he's at a G-Break 2, you only use this once per turn. You retire 2 units. He gains 10,000 in a critical. That is all. And that's pretty good. Especially considering what this deck does. And then his stride ability. When you stride on top of him, when you stride on top of Claret Sword, you Counterblast 1 and you search your deck for a grade 1 and call it. That's pretty good, especially when it comes to the way this deck works. Overall, this is your main grade 3. Run 4 copies. That's pretty much all I have to say for that. It's self-explanatory. Alright, now on to the fun part, the strides in this deck. Now, this is where you will see this deck get really weird, but it works, and it's strange how it works, and when I have my Vortimer deck complete, I'll show you that one too, and you'll see how strange it is and how strange it works, because it's stupid, and it works so good. Of course, with the 16G zone, this is going to be expanded, but until then, this is what I'm working with. I run 4 copies of Dark Dragon, Phantom Blaster, Diablo. 3 of them are, of course, the triple rare from the Legend deck, because who doesn't love the Legend deck shinies? Shiny. This card here is your base, is going to be your main heavy hitter. He's of course got the stride ability where you have to drop cards equaling a grade 3 from your hand and send it to the drop zone, and you get to stride him from the G zone. But his main ability is going to be your killer. He's a first once per turn skill. You have to activate this during the main phase. His skill, you counterblast 1, unflip a copy of him in the G zone. He gains 10,000 power and a critical. That's the first part. And then he gains a skill. This is where it gets stupid. Because when you attack, you retire 3 of your own units. And if your opponent cannot retire 2 or more of their own units, they cannot guard. If they don't retire, they cannot. If they don't retire units, they can't guard. And if they don't have enough units to meet the requirements, they cannot guard. So this is on top of an extra critical. It gains a skill where your opponent either retires units or they end up losing. Because 9 times out of 10, you're going to pull at least 1 critical, which increases this to 3. It gets broken and stupid so quickly that people hate Shadow Paladins. I think this is why the rest of the team despises it, because this card is what makes it meta. This card is what makes it meta. Alright. Now, personally, you're going to want to run... I run Dark Knight of Nyson, because Dark Knight of Nyson is a retire 1 unit, gain 7k, and an on-hit retire skill. This card is good combo when using Dark Pride Dragon, because you get to... You stride him, retire him, call out Dark Quartz. He gets 7. You retire him, he gets 7k and an on-hit skill. When you retire him, you call out Dark Quartz, gains 3k, and then he gains 3k. So this makes a total of an extra 10k gain by itself. Come on, for a retire 1 cost, let's go. It's pretty good. You can run more than 1 copy of him. I wanted to run 2, but I kind of wanted some variety in the deck, so I did end up putting in Dark Knight Grim Recruiter, which is the promo card from the Legend deck. This card here is your basic on-hit stride. On-hit, call a grade 1 from deck. That's about it. I run it because I run it in my Vortimer deck, and these two decks share G-zones. That's about all. This is very basic. If you want to run 2 copies, if you want to swap them out for an If Nyson, be my guest. I won't judge you. I really won't. Alright, now this is the stupid part of the deck. Of course, we all want to run 3 copies of Orgazor Dragon, and then 1 copy of Orgazor Doom, because that's all you ever need. But Orgazor Dragon is about $25 to $35 a piece. Unless you got money for that, go right ahead. Swap out these two. Swap out F. Nyson and Grim Recruiter for another 2 copies of Orgazor Dragon. But for now, and until the end of time, I'm only running 1 Orgazor Dragon and 1 Orgazor Doomed. Because you can still pull off Orgazor Doom's skill with 1 Orgazor Dragon. You just won't get the critical. And this deck crits like crazy already. Orgazor Dragon's normal skill is a Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, unflip a copy of himself, and when he attacks, you check the top 2 cards of the deck for a grade 1, and for each grade 1 you get, he gets an extra 5,000 power, and that's okay and everything, but, I mean, why? Why is it $26? Why? Tell me! Why? It does not deserve $26. It's an okay skill. This is what deserves $26. This one here is what you want to use first, second turn maybe. This card here, you counterblast 1, unflip a copy of Orgazor Dragon in your G zone. Not Orgazor Doomed, you unflip Orgazor Dragon. You unflip him, you retire 3 units. If you combo this with Oscar, you can do shenanigans. When you get a grade, every time you get a grade 1 or less, you retire an opponent's unit. With Oscar, that's a guaranteed 1 retire when you combo it correctly. This is amazing. And of course, it's got a skill. If you got 3 face-up Orgazor Dragons, he gains an extra critical. So what? you run 12. What's the point? It's not necessary. He is honestly only $10 a piece, which I think is really stupid, because this is 26, and this is pretty much crap. I mean, like, for real. That's the deck itself. And I'm about to show you guys a couple of combos you can do with the deck. It's kind of easy to pull off. They're not too complex. I mean, if you don't mind stupid things happening at stupid times and your opponent trying to stop every single thing you do, then you can do this, but it's okay, I guess. So, of course, you're going to have Oscar as your back row rear guard. I'm going to just set up a soul here for you. This is personally one of my favorite souls to have. And, of course, Cleric Sword. The Dark Pride on the side. This in your hand. That in your hand. This in your hand. A couple of triggers. Doesn't matter which ones. A Perfect Guard in your hand. And let's just say one of these in your hand. Let's just say this is your hand right here. And this is here is your field. Let's just say, for example, this is your field. You haven't strode yet. Let's just say, for example, and you've got 4 damage. Let's just say you got 4 damage. It's your turn to stride. Of course, I'm shuffling my deck. Alright, it's your turn to stride. You stride using... No, you've already... Let me see something. Hang on. Yeah. You've already strode a couple of times. You've perfect guarded, and you've guarded regularly a couple of times as well. You've had to drop cards from your hand. Some stupid skills from, like, Murakumo or some nonsense. You dropped a couple of cards from your hand. Let's just say this happened. You strode once to, let's just say, Grim Recruiter. Let's just say, for example, Grim Recruiter. It's your turn to draw. You draw a card. Of course, it's always going to be something interesting to have. You're going to want to stride. If you have a stride fight in your hand, stride with that first. You're going to stride with that. Go to Orgasm Doomed. Cleric Sword ability activates the moment you stride on top of him. You counterblast 1 and you search your deck. As long as David is still in your deck, call him out, because he not only gains 2k, but he's also now a 2 retire, and it's amazing. So now you've got your field pretty much set. You're going to want to use Oscar's skill next. Sending him to the soul. You search your entire deck for any grade 1. 9 times out of 10. You're going to want to put this. You're going to want to put a Perfect Guard on top of the deck. Or you're going to want to put Abyss Summoner on top of the deck. It doesn't matter which one you put on top of the deck. But if you ever got a Perfect Guard in your hand, go with Abyss Summoner. If you don't, put a Perfect Guard on top. We're just going to put Abyss Summoner on top of the deck since we already have a Perfect Guard in our hand. You leave it out. You shuffle the rest of your deck. You put him on top. And then you countercharge. And then watch this. You activate Orgasm Doom skill. Counterblast. Unflip an Orgasm Dragon. Retire 3 units. David counts as 2. There goes 2 of them right there. Bam. Dark Pride Dragon. This is amazing. Bam. And then you reveal the top 2 cards of the deck. Boom. There's a grade 1. Boom. That's a Perfect Guard. You retire 2 units just like that. And then get this. Combos go off now. Orgasm Dragon. Dark Pride Dragon skill goes off. You search your deck for a Dark Quartz Dragon. And you call him. his skill activates. You gain 3k and he gains 3k, and then you countercharge 1. You just used two or 3 skills for practically nothing, except the loss of 2 units. And then you shuffle the rest of your deck, and it's amazing. And then look, you still got a huge hand to work with. You're gonna call Abyss Summoner. And then call Greymew. Greymew skill activates. You Counterblast and you Soul Blast. And you call another grade 1. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna call another Dark Quartz. Dark Quartz skill goes off again. Another 3k and another 3k. Bam! You basically filled your field for the price of 2 cards. You would attack. Let's just see. First, a grade 2. Second, a critical trigger. Critical to Vanguard Powder Greymew. Third check, Dark Pride. That's awesome. Let's just say bam, bam. And you get rid of it. Boom. Now your hand is like huge. Look how big this is. This is enormous. Your opponent attacks. You perfect guard. You drop a card. He attacks again. Guard. He attacks again. Of course, you don't guard it. Take the damage. You stand back up. Your opponent has like 3 units left on the field. He's thinking he can survive. You draw a card. It's a Dark Pride Dragon. You stride using... No, personally, I would honestly stride using a Dark Quartz Dragon and a Giva, because next turn I can beat this guy. He has 3 units on the field. What am I going to do? What do you got? No, he has like 2 units on the field. No, 3. No, just 2. Because you've gotten rid of his entire field this entire game. You stride directly to Phantom Blaster Diablo. You counterblast and you call another grade 1. Let's just say you retire this one. Call Brandwin, because you've got a Stride Fighter in the deck. Why not? And then you retire Greymew, because Greymew is no longer necessary. You call a Dark Pride, and you call a Death Spray. Death Spray skill is amazing. You activate a Phantom Blaster skill. Counterblast, unflip a copy. Now he's got 10k and a critical. And an on-hit skill. Well, on-attack skill. You boost and attack with your Vanguard, with your rear guard first. To one of his rear guards. Of course, he wouldn't guard it, thinking that you don't know what you're doing. Then you would boost and attack with this rear guard. His skill goes off. You counterblast another one. Retire a unit, and bam. He's lost one of his only 2 guards. He's sitting like, oh my god, what else am I gonna do? Then you boost and attack with your Vanguard. Then his skill goes off. You retire 3 units. You retire 3 units. Your opponent has to choose 2 units to retire, or he can't guard. And then you've also got Abyss Summoner skill who goes off. So it's the countercharge, soul charge. And then he gains 3k. This is Shadow Paladin's gorgeousness. And then you've got a hand size like crazy. Perfect guard, grade 3. And another grade 3. So you got Stride Fighter for days. Now, I'm not sure how this deck works with the new 16G zone when it's released in a couple more days. I honestly don't know how to work, and I still honestly need to get the cards for the 16G zone. But overall, this is pretty much how the deck is supposed to run. This has been Lucas Rio with Team Cardfighters United. If you want, leave a comment down below on other decks that you want to see from us and other comments you have about this deck profile. If you want to buy these sleeves that you see me use, these are Spectral Blaster Diablo sleeves for the new Vortimer deck that I'm building. You can buy them off of Ideal 808. Of course, this is not sponsored. Wish it was sponsored, but it's not. And I guess that's it. Meta right now is disgusting.